Okay, Hare Krishna. Today we're continuing with our Bhakti Shastri course. Today will be the 20th part of our Bhagavad Gita portion of the course. We're concluding chapter 9. We'll be doing the last 10 verses 25 through 34. We've taken a little bit more time on this chapter, split into 3 parts because of its relative importance. We're talking about here the Ananya or Kevala or pure bhakti. There's different terminologies for it. But it means that one worships directly Krishna in his transcendental form, and that one does so without an ulterior motive. That one realizes that the deepest nature of one's soul is this loving, it's an exchange, a relationship with the Lord. And so he loves us, we love him. And so there's nothing else to get out of it. That's the highest purpose of life, is to have that. And so you don't do that for an ulterior motive. And because the Lord is inclined to have that, and because it's our eternal nature, we don't need any other methodology. We don't have to take support of any other type of spiritual practice or dharma in order to do that. So those are the kind of, we talked about different types of mixtures of bhakti. And so, and that's, we've been talked about that in chapter 7 and 8, and to some extent here, even in chapter 9. But here, Krishna is putting a stronger focus on this pure bhakti, which is what he recommends. This is that's the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. So we've been taking a little bit of time over this chapter. Well, we're trying to move quickly because we don't want to keep the class carrying on for too long. So we want to start with a little bit of a review. And what we've been dealing with a lot in this chapter so far is this notion of oneness and difference. And there's a tension between the two. And so in the previous sections of the chapter, we've seen how everything is the energy of Krishna. Krishna has been very careful about that. He's given us a lot of information that way. And he says it's controlled and sustained by him. Everything that exists is his energy. It originates from him. It's sustained by him and controlled by him. And so in that sense, everything is one. There is nothing outside of Krishna and his kind of extended existence. There's Krishna with his personal form, and everything else is expansions of his energies. So there's nothing outside of that. That's space and time, they're part of his energies. There's all there is, in one sense, is Krishna and his extended reality. On the other hand, he's made it clear that he is fully complete in and of himself. And that we heard in Bhagavad Gita 9.5, where he says he's apart, that he's not in the rest of the creation. He says everything is in him, but he's not within the rest of the creation. That indicates he's outside of space and time. That space and time are his expanded energies. And we also covered this extensively in Ishopanishad, the invocation that said that the whole creation that comes from Krishna, it neither adds or subtracts anything, adds to him or subtracts anything from him. There was in the invocation of the Ishopanishad, it said that so many things, complete things, come out of him, and he remains complete. So everything that has expanded from him is still within him. He could expand the same creation many, many, many times over, an infinite number of times over, and not be reduced in power. And everything that's out there doesn't add anything to him because it's coming from him and it's still there. It doesn't deplete anything because even though it's expanded, his potential energy has not reduced in the slightest. All those things are still there within him. So he's the 100%. Everything else are little percentages of him, but they're not subtracted away. He can just do them again and again and again infinitely. So in that case, he's different. He's different from everything else. The source of everything and the sustenance of everything. So there's this tension between the oneness and the difference. So when we, as devotees, understand these concepts properly, uh, it helps us. The reason he's doing it, it helps us to develop really strong faith that simply by worshiping Krishna directly in his form as Krishna, two arms and a flute, is sufficient. Actually necessary, and also sufficient. We find out that there's no higher object of worship than Krishna. The difference, it makes that true, because he's everything. Then what else is there? There's nothing higher to worship than that, or to take shelter of, or to have a relationship with. And the oneness helps to dispel any confusion that you might need some other type of path, some other type of spiritual practice in order to succeed. Because he mentioned early on, he says that everyone follows my path. And here he mentions that all the other things, whether it's sacrifice or austerity or knowledge, all those things also are his energy. They're included in Krishna. So even if you take up some other type of spiritual path alongside of bhakti or instead of bhakti, you're still just dealing with Krishna, but in a less direct way. So so the fact that Krishna is the very highest element of worship, and really the only thing that's existing, means that exclusive devotion to him makes complete and perfect sense, and really nothing else makes that much sense. And so we heard last time about there's a certain type of devotees who place a greater emphasis on the oneness than the difference. They acknowledge the difference. But it says generally to have fully pure devotional service, you have to come into the contact with the devotees. And then you get to understand something about Krishna. So it seems that these persons would not understand so many of the qualities of Krishna, but they understand that there's this different entity, God, Krishna. And so this is in Bhagavad Gita 9:15. And they understand that Krishna is the source of everything. But they worship these energies that come from Krishna, whether it's the devatas, it says they even think of themselves, their own souls, as being an energy of Krishna, or the whole universe, and everything in it as being worshipable. So they worship the energies, but with the understanding that these energies are coming from the Supreme. So they acknowledge that they are not the Supreme, but that there is, there's something behind that. That they acknowledge the difference, but they're focusing more on the oneness. Well, I can worship this, I can worship that, as long as I understand there's that connection. I'm worshiping that in the context of the difference. But then there's others who worship Krishna's energies thinking in terms that there's only oneness, or thinking that there is no oneness at all. And they do not get the same benefit, and those remain within the material world. They can't enter the spiritual world. They can't get liberation. And it's interesting, we have the 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy name. And Prabhupada defines, he explains these two types of misunderstandings quite concisely when he says that it is an offense to think of the devatas, the demigods, as being equal to or independent of Krishna. So equal to would mean a complete oneness, that there's no entity, or there's no something that's the source of all the others, no special categories. It's just a full oneness, everything is equal. Or no oneness at all, meaning that you just have all these different individuals. There's no real connection between them. So that's independent of Krishna. Equal to means, if there's no supreme, if there's just complete oneness, everything is equal. And if there's no oneness at all, then you can have all of these differences. And so they're independent. They're independent from Krishna. And so those persons, they mentioned the persons who perform sacrifice and worship the devatas without the notion of connection with the Supreme. The previous ones in 9:15 said they worshiped the demigods, but they understood that they were coming from the Supreme, and so that connection made it proper bhakti. It wasn't pure bhakti, but it made it bhakti, and was sufficient for liberation. whereas seeing things disconnected, either in terms of everything is one, therefore equal, or complete oneness, or that there's all these individuals that don't have a real relationship. So you can just worship whomever. So disconnected from those things don't have that same power. They don't have the same. There's not the same kind of success rate. And so here in the first verse that we're going to cover today, 925, the commentator said that persons with these kind of understandings, in terms of no oneness at all or complete oneness, may be attracted to the various types of worship found in the Vedas, thinking that they are just as, or even more, valid than the worship of Krishna. And so here Krishna brings them back down to earth here in our first verse, text 925. As devotees, what we do, I think we mentioned this last time, is that we emphasize the difference in that we direct our worship towards the personal form of Krishna, as Krishna is going to has been and will continue to emphasize here in this chapter. But we will understand the connection of everything else. But instead of finding these the Krishna's energies and his manifestations and expansions as worshipable, we try to see how we can use them in our service of Krishna in his transcendent form. So even with the demigods, it says that a devotee will pray to the demigods to help give me devotion to Krishna, or any of the other objects you see in the world. We try to use it in Krishna's service. So we see it connected, meaning that we see that it's owned by Krishna. This is what we saw also in Ishopanishad. Everything is owned and controlled by the Lord. So we say, okay, this has arisen. It's part of Krishna's extended existence. He's created it. He controls it. He maintains it. Therefore, it's his. So how can I use that? That includes my own body and mind. And use that in a way that enhances our relationship. How can I use it in Krishna's service? That's how we balance those one and difference. So here Krishna says in 925, he says, those who worship the demigods, and this means not like devotees who saw them as connected with the Supreme, will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, he says, if one has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can attain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose, such as the process technically known as Darsha Parnamasa. These are vividly described in the Fruit of Activities portion of the Vedas, which recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pita planets by performing a specific yajna. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, or pishacha. Pishacha worship is called black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art, and they think that it is spiritualism. But such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planets of Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka without a doubt. And I think it's pretty clear. I mean, that makes perfect sense, I think, to anyone except for those who believe in complete oneness. But if you think in terms that we do, that there's oneness and difference, and Krishna is the supreme, then it's pretty clear that there's no substitute for Krishna worship. And that if you worship some of his energies, especially not understanding that connection, that you'll get whatever those energies can provide. If you worship the demigods, you get what they get. You know, they're living in a certain place. How can they give you what they don't have? They're not living in the transcendent world. How can they give you Krishna? If you worship the same thing, the ancestors, they'll take you to where they are. And also from the standpoint of complete difference, where you don't see a connection between things. Also, I mean, why not? Why you should get what they have to offer? It just makes perfect sense. You worship them. The best you can do is get what they have. If you go to somebody who's a millionaire, the most they can give you is $1 million if they have 1 million. They can't give you two. A billionaire, same thing. So a poor guy, can't give you as much. So it just makes sense that they can give you what they have. But especially for those who think of the complete oneness, they're thinking that any of these particular forms are illusions and just representations of the Supreme, and the Supreme is impersonal. We've talked a lot about this over the course of the Course, that they think that if there's a form, there's a limitation, and therefore you can worship any of these things and you'll enter into the impersonal absolute. So they're the only ones that think you can kind of worship anything and anyone, anyhow, and that somehow frees you from your attachment to the material world, that notion of service. Doesn't matter towards who, and then that allows you to enter into transcendence. So the only ones that, so that this verse is kind of aimed at those people. I think most logical, otherwise, that's the only kind of logic that would make this seem, that would necessitate this kind of a verse. Otherwise, it just seems perfectly natural. You get what you get from those whom you worship what they have, and not something more or different. And then Krishna contrasts the process of pure bhakti by saying, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, I will accept it. A beautiful verse here. And it contrasts the notion. Prabhupada says, the process is so easy. This is in his purport, this is 926, that even a leaf or a little water or fruit can be offered to the Supreme Lord in genuine love, and the Lord will be pleased to accept it. No one, therefore, can be barred from Krishna consciousness because it is so easy and universal. So the other case, we were talking about sacrifices. Those who were worshiping the Devatas, they were finding things in the Vedas and performing sacrifices. This takes more. It's more elaborate. It takes either qualifications or it takes money. Because sacrifices generally are done by the Brahmins. So they can do it on their own behalf. They're qualified to do it. So if you're a Brahmin, okay, maybe you can handle it. But if you're not, then you have to hire Brahmins. So you have to have some money. And it's not just a leaf or a flower. The sacrifices are more costly and elaborate, and the process is more demanding. So this is so it contrasts. So even these other worships which are less valuable. See, this is an amazing something that's kind of counterintuitive. Don't you pay more for something that's more valuable? So here, at least externally, you're paying less for something more valuable. It's more accessible. Not just certain people can get it. Right? So things that are valuable oftentimes are either open only to a few persons, and they cost more. There's restricted access. Right? So here, there's unrestricted access, and it seemingly costs less. Of course, it's going to require something that's obtainable by everybody, but Krishna sees as more valuable. And that's another thing we're finding out from this verse. And Prabhupada goes on in his purport, he says, Bhakti is mentioned twice in this verse, in order to declare more emphatically that bhakti, or devotional service, is the only means to approach Krishna. No other condition, such as becoming a brahmana, a learned scholar. See, the persons who do the karma kanda, they have to be a brahmin or hire one, or those who are jnanis, they usually have to be learned. A very rich man or a great philosopher can induce Krishna to accept some offering. Without the basic principle of bhakti, nothing can induce the Lord to agree to accept anything from anyone. Bhakti is never causal. The process is eternal. It is direct action in service to the absolute whole. So again, he's mentioning how Krishna is different. There is the absolute whole. And it says that, that the offering is made with devotion by someone who has devotion. There's the bhakti is mentioned twice in the verse. This is what Krishna values. And we'll see that because for Krishna, this is what is attractive to him. This is what he does, is he has relationships with his devotees. That's how he lives his life. So that's why that's very valuable currency for Krishna. That's his purpose. That's he can have anything he likes. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Krishna doesn't need anything, so you can't bribe him. So it doesn't big sacrifices, this or that. It doesn't have any effect upon him. But what he has done, everything is his, right? He created everything. We already know that. And he can create different if he wants. So the only thing that is attractive to him is this relationship, that there's love between him and his devotees. Love is the currency that he places, in which he places the greatest value. That is what he thinks is the meaning of his life. That's what he does for all eternity. So if we have some of that love, some of that desire to have a relationship with him, Krishna values that. That's the one thing that has value for him. Everything else is already his. What does he care? And then devotion is not a means, but an end, but rather the true nature of the soul, which is us. And we're the soul. That's why Prabhupada says it's never causal and it's eternal. Causal means that you want something. You do something to get something else. Oh, I need this. Let me go to Krishna and pray for something. Or this is causing me trouble, let me pray and get rid of it. Here, the means is the end. The devotion is the means, and it's what you want out of it. It's the whole value. It's not something that's valuable because of what it can produce. Because all it can do is produce more of itself. So it's okay to think that I want to have it and have it produce something. I want my small devotion to grow into bigger devotion. That's not a separate desire. That just means I have this desire. I want it to grow. That's all right. And so therefore it's eternal. That's what we, as a eternal spiritual being, that's our nature, to be engaged in loving relationship with Krishna. So it's eternal. And Krishna has repeatedly declared his friendship to all souls, and the devotees offer something in return out of appreciation and gratitude. So why would we want to offer something? Why would we do it? Not because Krishna orders us or because we're in fear, but Krishna, at least 3 times so far, we've heard Krishna say he's Surit. He's our well-wishing friend. And when we understand that someone as wonderful as Krishna cares about us personally, we want to reciprocate. We have gratitude and appreciation. Ultimately, that turns into love. Love is kind of a high thing. So we begin with this kind of gratitude and appreciation and desire to reciprocate in some way. And that's what Krishna takes as valuable. Then Prabhupada says, one who loves Krishna will give him whatever he wants, and he avoids offering anything which is undesirable or unasked. And so we've already discussed this in the Nectar of Instruction, that bhakti isn't something whimsical. Right? If you want to please someone, you're interested to know what they want. What do you like to do? If we're going to go somewhere together, what do you like to do? If I'm going to buy you a gift, what do you like? I consider your tastes. If I'm going to cook a meal for you, I consider your tastes, not my tastes. That's the nature of any type of relationship. And so we heard that we do that by following the example and the instructions of the scriptures, the great previous acharyas and devotees, and even the current devotees that have a greater understanding and experience in bhakti, who know something more about what Krishna wants. So it's not that I can say, well, oh Krishna, I love you, please accept accept this. We have to consider not what we want, but what Krishna wants. That's an element. It seems natural if you want to show some gratitude towards someone, you want to show some appreciation, you want to show some love to someone, that's what we do. And of course that would also follow that we do that with Krishna. Prabhupada continues, he makes an interesting point here. He says, the impersonalist philosophers who wish to maintain that the absolute truth is without senses cannot comprehend this verse of Bhagavad Gita. To them it is either a metaphor or proof of the mundane character of Krishna, the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita. And because they think, well, we'll talk about it later, Krishna's hearing the devotees' words of love in offering foodstuffs is wholly, Prabhupada, as there's emphasis there, wholly identical with his eating and actually tasting. Let's read that again. Krishna's hearing the devotees' words of love in offering foodstuffs is wholly identical with his eating and actually tasting. So when we, if we offer food kind of formally and we chant prayers, or if we just say to Krishna, please accept this food, you prepare something, please accept it. Krishna hearing us requesting him to eat, just through his hearing, he can taste it, he can eat it. It's happening. He says only the devotee who accepts Krishna as he describes himself without interpretation can understand that the Supreme Absolute Truth can eat food and enjoy it. So the impersonalists think that the Absolute has no form. So therefore you can't taste and you wouldn't eat. You wouldn't do that. Or if they do, it's a material form that they take just to interact with you. It's not really their supreme. It's not the supreme. So the supreme may take a material form to interact with us in the material world. Like the word. Sometimes we use the word incarnation, but it's not actually a very good translation of avatar. Avatar means one who descends. So Krishna says that I appear as I am. He comes in my spiritual form. I descend. But in the root of the word incarnate is carnal or carnal. It means flesh. In Latin, the root of it means flesh. To take on flesh. Incarnate means to take on flesh. So it would mean that something that's non-physical takes on flesh. So that's kind of what the impersonalists think, that if there's a form, it's just a special kind of manifestation that the Supreme has taken to interact with us. It's not supreme. So that might eat, you see, but it's not really supreme. And so either two things is either metaphorical, you're doing some worship because you think of yourself as an embodied entity. You can't understand your own impersonal nature. And so you're by trying to serve anyone else, it's breaking your attachments to the world a little bit, making you less selfish, and making you more able then to realize yourself as an eternal spirit and merge with the one. So they see it either as kind of metaphorical, or that you're offering it to something who's actually material and not divine. That's what they think. So Prabhupada says it's difficult for them to understand how we actually can offer God, the transcendental Lord, food, and he accepts it and tastes it and enjoys it. That's what he says. Because God is spiritual.
But the food that we offer, that is material before he takes?
Well, of course, everything that we offer is Krishna's energy. So Prabhupada says everything ultimately is spiritual, is different kinds of spirit. So yeah, we everything we offer, it's still Krishna's energy, but he can taste it if he likes. Why he can't? Yeah? And so then when it happens, then it becomes spiritualized. It's like food offered in sacrifice, so it's become purified. But Krishna can taste it. We can cook for him, and he can enjoy it. Okay? And so the impersonalist, there's no form, there's just an impersonal light. There's no interaction. It doesn't taste anything. It's complete in itself, and just that's all it does. Yeah? Well, with Krishna, he can accept it. Well, he accepts the love, and he can taste that. So the impersonalists consider that the absolute has no form and transcendence. Therefore, any form of the Lord would be material and not absolute. But we have seen that the form of the Lord is the highest reality. That's how Krishna has explained himself, and how we've heard also in the Isha Upanishad. So it was interesting how Prabhupada mentioned that. Also, Prabhupada mentioned in the purport that Krishna doesn't need anything. That currency of love is what he finds valuable. So moving on to text 27, he says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, this is Krishna speaking, giving instruction, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Now, previously he's mentioned how we should, engage in direct activities of devotional service, hearing and chanting and remembering him, and all the 9 processes actually. But he particularly mentioned that kirtan, speaking about him and hearing about him. But it's understood. Let's hear what Prabhupada says. He'll explain here in the purport. He says, thus it is the duty of everyone to mold his life in such a way that he will not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together. And Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him. Everyone has to eat something to live, and therefore he should accept the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. Any civilized man has to perform some religious ritualistic ceremonies, therefore Krishna recommends do it for me, and this is called archana. Everyone has a tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, give it to me. And this means that all surplus money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. I guess there's a couple ways we can take Prabhupada here. One thing, I guess you can just say that everything could be direct service to Krishna, but and just applying the principle of service of everything that we do. But generally, Krishna has recommended fully engaging in the activities of direct devotional service. The hearing, the chanting, the remembering, these sorts of things. And he says that even if somebody does that exclusively, and doesn't worry about their own maintenance, he says that he carries to them what they lack, and preserves what they have. So, and that Prabhupada gave, we saw 2 meanings that he said that on the one hand, Krishna helps people that he says carry to them what they like means he brings them to him. The yoga that means carry to means that he brings them to him, and he keeps them with him. So there's that notion of acquiring yoga and shema, protecting. And so he says, so Prabhupada in his purport says that the yoga means attaining Krishna. So Krishna, what he does is he brings you to him. He fulfills your deepest desire, brings you to him, and he keeps you there. Brings you to Krishna. Go to Krishna's planet. You be with Krishna. What does it mean? That's what it means. He brings you to him. He makes you successful on your path of bhakti. He helps you. We heard about that in Nectar of Instruction, right? That Krishna helps us. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur took it in a more kind of less esoteric sense. He said that he brings you whatever you need materially to survive. He says he supports you like a father supports his family, and he takes that burden on, to support you. Generally, for people to really do that all the time, to do direct devotional service all the time, they're going to have to be in a particular ashram. We say in the brahmachari ashram or the sannyas ashram. Usually people have to do something else. If they have a family, they'll usually have to do some other type of work to maintain themselves. Even great devotees like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the great grand spiritual master Srila Prabhupada, he worked as a magistrate, So it happens that way. Prabhupada in his earlier life also had a business, you know. So generally, so not everybody can just simply hear and chant all the time. Now Prabhupada, in the purport, he kind of indicated, well, you know, if you do work, like there's also other types of work we do. We can serve the deity, we can go and teach Krishna consciousness. And so you could read his purport in saying that these are just different elements of direct bhakti. So he says, if you have any money, you give it to Krishna. If you eat anything, you eat prasadam. But otherwise, it says, you know, some people have to give in charity, so you know, to give it to Krishna. Otherwise, we see that most people, if they're in the grihastha ashram, the family, the householder ashram, they have to do things that are not directly devotional service. They're indirectly. They want. If we talked about in the Nectar of Instruction that you should try to make these things fit into your highest priority, which is serving Krishna. They shouldn't take on a life of their own. You should do what you need to do in order to be able to continue with your devotion. So, in that sense, Srila Prabhupada and Baladev Vijayabhushan, they kind of tend to focus. Although Prabhupada, you could take it as someone just doing pure bhakti. They focus on those who may have the taste for doing service all the time, but they have other obligations, taking care of their families and things. And so they take it that way. Baladev Vijayabhushan says there may be some persons, like Arjuna. They say Arjuna is this case. You know, he's not just hearing and chanting, he's also fighting. He's also doing his duty as a kshatriya, he's maintaining his family. He's still remembering Krishna all the time, but he's doing some of these other things. He's following his dharma as a kshatriya. His serving Krishna is his only priority, but these other things he's doing because he's a family man. He's doing these things, so those persons, he says, they might have the taste to do it all the time, but they have these other obligations, and so they are considered to be still pure bhaktas on the Ananya level. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a little different interpretation. And he says there are also those who don't have the taste for performing direct activities of bhakti all the time. They're attracted to other kind of activities. And so Baladev Vijayabhushan says for those who are maybe doing these other things, they're doing as Krishna advised Arjuna. He says that you can still do your duties, even if you're beyond the need to do your other dharmas. He says you can do them to guide others, set a good example. He says, Krishna said in the third chapter, right? So even I perform my dharmic duties in order to, because if I don't, people would they follow with the example a good man sets. So everything would be ruined if I didn't also follow dharma. He says, you don't need to. I said, I don't need to. And he says, you don't need to even. Early Arjuna doesn't need to either. He's a pure devotee. But he said, you should do it just so that people will follow your good example. So Baladev Vijayabhushan mentions that object. Somebody has the devotion to perform devotional activities all the time, but either because of other obligations, they do something else, but they do that remembering Krishna. And they do it also to help other people follow proper dharma, to set a good example. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives another example that says that some people will do some bhakti, but they may not be able to stay focused on that all the time. They can't. And so he says that those type of people, it becomes it's a high level of mixed bhakti. It's not a pure bhakti. And he says the way you can tell the difference is whether they offer it, whether they're thinking as they do it, whether they're thinking that's an offering, or whether they just offer the results afterwards. So he says that somebody who is like Arjuna, a pure devotee, who just has some other obligations. While they're doing their other obligations, they're thinking that I'm doing this for Krishna's happiness. I'm doing my duty as a kshatriya. I'm offering this particular sacrifice or giving in charity or doing some kind of something. I'm doing that for Krishna. And so they're remembering Krishna all the time, and they're doing everything with some devotion. Persons who are not so attached, don't have the strong taste for Krishna, they may think of it afterwards. I'm attached to this particular type of activity, my dharma, my this, my that, and then afterwards I offer the results to Krishna. So maybe I have a business, I make some money, and then I'm not thinking while I'm doing it, I'm not thinking I'm doing this for Krishna. But afterwards, when I get some profit, then I give it to Krishna. So this is still good, but it says it's a high level of mixed bhakti. Because at least still, because what happens is it's not just your dharma. Here we're breaking the limits. See, before Krishna said that you should do your dharma as an offering to me, even to Arjuna. But here it says all your activities. See, here Krishna is saying everything you do, not just your dharma. So like Krishna, Arjuna is supposed to fight, follow his kshatriya dharma, all this kind of stuff. But also he's not following the kshatriya dharma every minute. The dharma only calls for a few things, So he has so much of the rest of his life. So in either case, whether it's somebody who's approaching it with devotion, and they're remembering Krishna every moment, or somebody who, at the end offers the results or thinks of it that way, they're remembering Krishna a whole lot of the time, and so they're breaking the boundaries of just dharma there. So that's a very high level thing.
They're completely two different scenarios, right?
They're related scenarios, though they both fall under this verse. So and so the verse can apply to both of them, and they both. It's very high level both. One of them is called Ananya, is pure bhakti, and the other one's a very, very high level of mixed bhakti. Because the Krishna is being involved so much of the time. With everything they're doing, Krishna is involved somehow. Even for those who are offering afterwards. Instead of thinking I'm trying to please Krishna every moment, but I think, I've done this, I'm attached to this, I've done this thing, but now let me give the fruits to Krishna. Let me think that now this is, somehow remembering Krishna at that.
Ananya Bhakti means like even whatever activity, even while doing it, they remember to it?
Yeah, you're doing everything with the purpose of pleasing Krishna.
Okay, so at that moment, he will remember that because if Arjuna is killing him.
Yeah, but he knows when Arjuna's heading into battle, he knows he's following Krishna's order. You see? And so he's fighting knowing that this is pleasing to Krishna, I'm becoming his instrument.
So at that moment also he remembers while killing?
Well, it doesn't have to be every second, but as you engage, because you're engaging in the activity, sometimes that takes your mind, Yes. But you've started the activity thinking that this will be pleasing to Krishna. Okay. You understand how that? Yes. So even in the engaging of the activity, you're already thinking of Krishna beforehand.
Yeah.
You see? That's different than, say, if you're engaged in some kind of business activity.
Completely forgot.
And then, you're doing it because that's what you do, that you're attracted to that, and then you give the result to Krishna. Okay? They're both really high-level things because you're doing everything you do is somehow going to be connected with Krishna in either case. But one of them is a little higher because you're always thinking of pleasing Krishna from the beginning. Yes. Where the other person may remember Krishna at the end. So maybe I love to garden. Now somebody who's Ananya Bhakta, they're planting the seed, they're watering it, they're thinking, oh, this is going to grow something nice for Krishna. I'm weeding it, I'm making it grow, and here's the fruit, this is going to be offered to Krishna. This is beautiful, this is wonderful. I'm thinking about what kind of dish I'm going to prepare with this vegetable. And then when it grows, you take it and you offer it to Krishna. Now somebody else must just love to garden. Right? And so they grow, they make it beautiful. They're trying to do everything they can do to make it be nice. The fruit grows or the vegetable grows, and they say, "Oh, let me offer this to Krishna. He's the supreme." Okay. Now they didn't start it explicitly for the purpose of offering to Krishna. Okay. You see, he's not thinking the whole time, "I'm planning it to grow something for Krishna." He's planning because he likes to garden. Right? And then afterwards, oh, this is a nice vegetable. Let me offer the fruit, Krishna. So it's not a huge difference. That's why it's a high level even of mixed bhakti.
But his mood is again to, oh, this is a nice fruit, I should give.
I should give it to Krishna. So it's a little bit remembrance, a little bit after the fact. So it shows a little more attachment to the activity.
Yeah, got it.
You see? So that makes it a little bit mixed, but it's a very slight mixture.
No selfish interest.
And it's and it covers all of their activities. See, that's what makes it so powerful. And so here in the next verse it says what happens to a person like that, whether it's pure or whether it's high mixed. It says, in this way you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. Right? Because karma, you have good karma and bad karma. Both of those things are binding to the material world. So if you do pious activities, not devotional activities, pious activities, you have to experience the result of that. You have to take another birth in order to enjoy the happiness. Maybe you go to the heavenly planets, right? But you have to do that. With your mind fixed on me, in this principle of renunciation, sannyasa yoga yuktatma, by being continuously connected with Krishna, either before the fact and during and after, or just after the fact, he says, you will be liberated and come to me. Okay? So it's powerful. Because you will come to me. Mam upaishyasi. You will attain me. And Prabhupada says in his purport, he says, Rupa Goswami says that as long as we are in this material world, we have to act. We cannot cease acting. Therefore, if actions are performed and the fruits are given to Krishna, then that is called yukta vairagya. Actually situated in renunciation, such activities clear the mirror of the mind, and as the actor gradually makes progress in spiritual realization, he becomes completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, at the end, he becomes liberated, and his liberation is also specified. He says there are 5 different stages of liberation, and here it is specified that the devotee who has always lived his lifetime here, under the direction of the Supreme Lord as stated, has evolved to the point where he can, after quitting this body, go back to Godhead and engage directly in the association of the Supreme Lord. So we've heard previously how the mixed bhaktas, many of them, they attain the planet of the Lord without having a lot of close association. So Karma Mishra Bhaktas, Yoga Mishra Bhaktas, Jnana Mishra Bhaktas, they have an ulterior motive, especially the ones who have ulterior motive. They want, they're worshiping Krishna intensely for something material. They're worshiping for liberation, something like that. Worshiping for mystic powers, different things. They have an ulterior motive. But Krishna is so kind that he accepts their service and he takes them to the spiritual world. But because they don't have a taste for serving Krishna directly, they had this interest in their own happiness, right? Therefore, they go to Vaikuntha, but they don't have a lot of association with Krishna, and they don't serve him so much directly. They become pious citizens of the spiritual world, right? And then they kind of decorate the place. They're nice. They contribute to the atmosphere there, but they don't have a lot of association and service directly to the Lord. And then those he mentioned that don't have an ulterior motive but are still attached to yoga or some other process, they oftentimes have more direct contact, but it's in the mood of passive adoration, shantarati. So they don't serve so much, but they're aware of the Lord's presence, but they're more just in passive adoration, just awe and reverence. They feel he's so great, how can I serve him? And it's the pure Ananya Bhaktas, and also these here, even if they're slightly mixed, that the word vimukta, V is an intensifier. So it's not just ordinary liberation; it's a special kind of liberation. That's implied in the verse. The word is vimukta in the word. Vimukta is there in the vimukto in the actual shloka, but the root is vimukta. And so the commentators say the word vimukta means that these devotees have close association with the Lord in service.
So what types of people you have?
The one we had just in that previous verse, the ones who do whatever they give, whatever they eat, whatever they do, they give to Krishna. Everybody under those verses, whether they do offer beforehand and they are pure or whether they're slightly mixed.
Both will have close association.
Both will have that. Yeah. Yeah. It's so because they're dealing with Krishna in all phases of their life. Krishna is there in all phases of their life, not just in their religious duties. Right? So we heard about the karma mishra bhaktas and things. They will do their religious duties, and they'll worship Krishna, and they'll do their religious duties for some ulterior motive. That gives them one thing, but they won't do everything in their whole life connected with Krishna. They'll be very attentive in doing their religious duties and giving some worship for Krishna, but they won't do it in all phases of their life. This is breaking the bounds just of dharma. These people here, whatever you do, whatever you give away, whatever you eat, all these things. So in this case, they're dealing with Krishna in all phases of their life, not just their dharmic life or religious life. It's more all-encompassing. So therefore, their result is higher. So there's all kind of little flavors and different flavors of bhakti. And it's interesting how it works. So in 929, Krishna says something which is a little bit, first of all, seems like a contradiction. He says, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. So it's sama, aham sama sarveshu sarvabhuteshu. And he says, samaham sarvabhuteshu is the same towards everyone. Namai dvesho, stina priya, no one's dear and no one's my enemy. So I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Okay? So it seems like there's some inequality present. Right? Almost, and it seems like a contradiction in terms right there. He's equal to everyone, but he doesn't treat them all differently. He treats them differently, doesn't he? And so Prabhupada says in his purport, one may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is his special friend, then why does he take a special interest in devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental service? But this is not discrimination. It is natural, he says. And then Prabhupada, he goes on, he says, this also explains the words, ye yata mam prapadyante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham, whoever surrenders unto me, proportionately I take care of him. And the word is that kind of literally it means as they worship me, I worship them. Almost if you look at the Sanskrit literally. So he acts in proportion to their interest. And that's what explains the difference in behavior. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious. It means they're conscious in their people. There's a relationship there. There's not just and then Prabhupada says, when a diamond is set in a golden ring, he takes this example from Baladeva Bhushan. It looks very nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter, and when the living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. So a little poetic example here of how the Lord and his devotee go nicely together. So the Lord isn't playing favorites here because anyone can choose to become one of the Lord's devotees. So it's not that he's only going to take you. You see? He'll take me, he'll take you, anybody else. So everybody, he's already, he says, I'm the friend of everybody. So, but he's waiting for the permission to act like one. So everyone is in fact already, it's already clear. Krishna says so many times that he is already the friend of everyone, but he respects the desire of those who do not wish to have a relationship with him. So in the material world, most of us have decided to take our distance from Krishna, and so Krishna respects that. Yeah? If somebody cares about us and we say, look, I just don't want to deal with you anymore. If they're really kind to us, they'll respect our decision. Excuse me. And so that's what Krishna does. So he says, so the difference between him giving other people their independence, so now you act under the laws of karma. There's laws of justice. Right? Whatever you do, you'll get the result that you deserve. So you can earn promotion to higher planets, you can earn wealth and a high position, you can also earn suffering. Or he says, if you want, you can come closer to me, and then you come under the rule of love and grace and mercy. But that's your choice, your free choice to do one or the other. And so, following your choice, that's how he reacts. So that's equal treatment. You know, a child learns how to ride a bicycle, and sometimes the parent will be there to catch them if they fall. One child says, "No, I want to do it on my own." Right? And even they may fall and scrape their knee, but the parent will let them try it. So Krishna is that way. We want to do it on our own, Krishna allows it. We want to be closer to him, Krishna is happy for that. And the selfless love exchanged by the Lord and his devotees is the most beautiful thing. And that's why the comparison of the diamond and the golden setting is there. That selfless love, that's what it is. It's real love between Krishna and his devotees. Here we have approximations of love. And there's always mixtures of, there may be a real concern for the other, and you have a real value in the other. You may even sacrifice things for the benefit of the other, but there's also something you're trying to get out of the relationship. So you have needs, and you may also have concerns, and so it's a mixture. Love is a mixture between some actual love and some just desire on your part that's being fulfilled. That this person brings me personal happiness. That's a selfish desire.
Yes.
Right? We say, sometimes we say, you love someone enough to let them go. There's because you're concerned for their welfare. Even if you have to be separated from them, therefore you don't get any benefit from them any longer. But you will say, okay, no, if you want to, you don't want to be here, you can go ahead, and I will still love you. You see, that means that. Whereas you have these cases where you'll be very angry if someone wants to break the relationship because the same way you don't get the benefit from that. So in the spiritual realm, everyone is filled with joy already, and so they don't have needs, and so therefore love can be pure. You can only be concerned with the other. Krishna doesn't need you. You don't need Krishna in that sense. What you want and what Krishna wants is that you mutually feel indebted. You don't need Krishna, but you have a burning desire to reciprocate with him for all he's done for you. This is great. You have this overwhelming gratitude and overwhelming desire to do something for him. That's your need. That's your need. The devotees, when they're separated from Krishna, it's not that they're thinking, oh, Krishna made me so happy and now I'm miserable because he's not there. That when Krishna was there, you had a chance to serve him. That made you happy. So there's no neediness in real spiritual love. There's only intense desire to do something for the other, to express that love you have.
If I don't need Krishna, then definitely first point I will not be there in spiritual world.
No, no, because you don't need Krishna for your personal happiness. You need him. You need to serve him. It's a different thing. Think about how we live in this world. Okay, why do we love things? Right? Because they make us happy. And if I don't have them, they will make me unhappy. That's selfishness. That's not real love. Okay? That kind of relationship does not exist in the spiritual world. Why? The soul is self-satisfied. The soul does not have needs. It's fully self-satisfied. But in connection with Krishna, we feel we get this something from Krishna that's so spectacular, his love and concern, that we feel as though we are in debt. That he has done for us something that we could never earn, that we could never repay. And so in that sense, you can say we have a burning need to repay. Okay? So it's a different kind of need. It's not a need to make me happy. That Krishna is so beautiful, let me be in his presence so that I can enjoy his beauty. That's not what this is. That's not what, it's that Krishna is so wonderful. He somehow is connected with me. He is somehow my friend. I don't know how that can happen, and he's so kind to me. Therefore, I feel I have to do something for him. I feel such overwhelming gratitude and joy and indebtedness. And Krishna feels the same way. This is inconceivable. He feels that he cannot repay us for our love. You see? So instead of mutual neediness, it is just mutual service and a desire to satisfy. So this is what distinguishes material from spiritual love. And that's why it's such a glorious thing. And so other commentators mention that this quality of the Lord, to be attached to his devotees, is the Lord's most exalted quality, rather than a defect that's called Bhaktavatsala, where he's inclined towards his devotees. And this is really kind of a divine mystery, that we are finite and Krishna is infinite. We're only a tiny fraction of his energy, and he's the whole thing. Why should he be concerned with us at all? Yeah, but he is, and so this is his greatest ornament, that he is. And so why does he love us? I don't know, only Krishna knows, but he does.
And it is sure he will not change.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen. He's not going. That's not ever going to change. So there's this wonderful thing that we can't really explain or understand, but that we can be eternally grateful for, and so this is this is a sign of this is an exalted quality rather than a defect. Usually, when we play favorites with people, it's because we get something from them. Somebody is nice to us, we're nice to them, because it makes us feel nice when people are nice to us. When somebody is not nice to us, then we don't want to be that. We don't want to be with them. We become enemies. Okay, that's a material calculation based on our own happiness. Krishna, he wants to be with everybody. His love never, even when people are angry with him, even when people are against him, he doesn't stop loving them. He respects the fact they don't want to deal with him. But he's not like he's now, forget them. I like my devotees because they're nice to me. These people don't, so forget about them. I throw them into karma, and No. He simply respects their freedom, and he's there trying to revive the relationship all the time. He doesn't punish them that way. Now I'm mad at you because you don't care for me. He doesn't have that. He stays in the heart with them. He sends his devotees to them. He's always trying to give people back. Please reconsider. Please reconsider. Have your relationship with me. So Krishna is not angry with anybody. Not that way.
But why we should not do the same thing in this world, because we hear a lot of times we have to maintain some distance with the envious people.
But see, there's a difference. Just like, say, Krishna doesn't hate them, though. See, do we hate them? See, do we hate our enemies? Are we angry with them? Do you think they're bad people? So we choose our association, right? But we understand that everybody is a dear person to Krishna, so that they have real value. So to protect our devotion or to protect ourselves, we may not closely associate with everybody. That's a different thing.
So it is the same thing like what Krishna did.
Well, we're trying to do that. Yeah, we're trying, because if we have respect for Krishna, then we have to have respect for all of Krishna's creations. Right? And so every person, so we don't see this is a bad person.
Yeah.
We think this person has made some bad choices. This soul has made some bad choices and now has these negative qualities. But at heart, they're a pure soul. And they're dear to Krishna. So we're thinking how we can help them. Right? And so now sometimes exalted devotees, they have such devotion, and they have a transformative power about them because their bhakti is so strong that they can go even to persons who are really against God, and they can change their minds. We have stories of that in the scriptures. We have Prabhupada coming to the exalted devotees coming to everybody and trying to get them to do it. People who have less devotion, have less power to transform people. And also their devotion is more weak. So that's why it says that the more beginning level person, avoids those who are really against God. It may also affect their faith, and they won't do these other people any good. They'll just irritate them. You see? So if you go preaching to somebody who's really against God, they're going to make offenses to you. They're going to make more offenses to God. But if somebody has deep devotion, they can feel that. There's that story of Lord Chaitanya, where he goes to the residence of this great criminal, head criminal, who's been responsible for so many murders and things, and he tells them that I see great love of God in you, and the person, because usually it would just make somebody angry, but of course Lord Chaitanya was so powerful that he changed his heart, But for us, we have to understand what we can do what we can do to serve everyone the best, if we're devotees. And so going and trying to irritate and agitate somebody who's really against God, who's angry with God, or really, it may even hurt them and not help them. Right? If you're trying to convince them, because you don't have your love is not so great that they feel that and it touches their heart. See, somebody who really sees other people as souls, they see past all the externals. And if they really see that way, the other person feels it. The other person feels it. If our understanding is very theoretical, they don't feel it. Yes. Yeah? And so then you have to be careful. So that's why it says that the Madhyama Adhikari, we talked about that, the kind of middle level devotee, worships the Lord, makes friends with the devotees, tries to help those who are innocent, inquisitive and this kind of stuff, who aren't really against God. But those who are really envious of the Lord and angry with the Lord, then they leave them be. They can't help them, and they maybe even can hurt themselves. And so they leave those kind of people to persons with deeper realization. Okay, so let's go 30, because we're running out of time here. These are important verses coming up. This is, even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. And Prabhupada, he gives a couple of, I'm going to read quite a bit of the purport here because he explains it really nicely. Oops, I went too far here in the slides. Here we go. Therefore, a person who is situated in Krishna consciousness and is engaged with determination in the process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, should be considered to be in the transcendental position, even if by chance or accident he is found to have fallen. The words sadur eva, he is saintly, are very emphatic. The eva part. They are a warning to the non-devotees and devotees, I'm going to add parenthetically, that because of an accidental fall down, a devotee should not be derided. He should still be considered saintly even if he has accidentally fallen down. And the word mantavya should be thought of, is still more emphatic. If one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, then one is disobeying the order of the Supreme Lord. The only qualification of a devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service. Now this raises a kind of a doubt here, that there's something called antinomianism, where you think you're engaged in something that's so valuable that you can do anything, there's no moral rules to you. And so Prabhupada addresses this. He says, on the other hand, one should not misunderstand that a devotee in transcendental devotional service can act in all kinds of abominable ways. This verse only refers to an accident due to the strong power of material connections. Devotional service is more or less a declaration of war against the illusory energy. As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. But when one is strong enough, he is no longer subjected to such fall downs as previously explained. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. If he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that he is not a high devotee. Okay, so let's look at that a little bit. Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushan, he comments that when one takes exclusive shelter of Krishna, this is called Ananya Bhakti. When you don't have an ulterior motive, you don't have any other process that you're taking shelter of, so you're taking exclusive shelter of Krishna. So you have pure faith. Okay? It says that person becomes especially dear to Krishna immediately. He already said in the verse previous, right, that he especially favors his devotees. Right? So this happens immediately. As soon as one has pure faith, that Krishna is my only shelter, he's my only object of worship, I don't want anything from him, and I'm not going to use any other process. I simply have full faith just in bhakti. That's Ananya or Kevala Bhakti or pure Bhakti. Even if you're not fully pure yourself. So here it says, so Baladeva Vidyabhushan says Krishna immediately, the thing this condition that was invoked in the previous verse, that they become so dear to him, automatically Krishna feels that automatically they become so dear to Krishna. And so Krishna then thinks of him as a sadhu, and he thinks of him as a wonderful entity. Okay? So then it says if Krishna holds such individuals in such high regard, then we are obliged to do so as well. Otherwise, saying, "Oh, Krishna, you're wrong. You don't see things properly." Right? So we have to respect Krishna, and Prabhupada says someone may take to the process of devotional service, but they're not strong enough to resist the temptations of the material energy. He says it's like a declaration of war, and the material energy tests you. Right? And so then it says that people may have fall downs, make mistakes, these kind of things like that. But the devotee naturally feels regret for any misbehavior and tries to improve. That's how the sincere person does. They may be overwhelmed by Maya, but they regret that. They don't take license. If they do, like Prabhupada says, if they say, "Oh, Krishna loves me, therefore I can do anything and I'll still be saintly," that's an offense against Krishna. Actually, it's one of the offenses against the holy name, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the chanting of the holy name. And that puts huge impediments in the way of your devotion. Notice that Prabhupada said even those persons, he didn't say they weren't devotees, but he says they're not. If someone doesn't improve, they're not a high devotee. Because still Krishna still is inclined to them, but because of the offenses, it's going to hurt the person's growth. They eventually will become purified, but it's going to take a lot longer. And it says what the offenses do is make your desire for devotional service decrease. It says you lose your taste for devotional service. It puts a really heavy block in the way. But for a person who's sincere, just because they blow it, just because they fall under the spell of the material nature and have make a mistake, do something, even if it's quite severe, but they regret it, they try to correct it, they pray to Krishna to help them to go further, then it says they do not need, then they're still considered to be saintly. They're on the path. They're just imperfect as well. And Krishna mentions here, and he explains it in the next verse. He says, "He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes." Okay, this is 31. And then Prabhupada says, generally a devotee who is engaged in the 9 kinds of devotional activities is engaged in the process of cleansing all material contamination from the heart. He puts the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart, and all sinful contaminations are naturally washed away. Continuous thinking of the Supreme Lord makes him pure by nature. According to the Vedas, there is a certain regulation that if one falls down from his exalted position, he has to undergo certain ritualistic processes to purify himself. It's called the prayaschita. But here there is no such condition, because the purifying process is already there in the heart of the devotee, due to his remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead continuously. So if someone takes to the process, they have pure faith, they're not doing it for some ulterior purpose, they're not taking shelter of any other process, but they're still weak and they make mistakes. They have fall downs, they do some misdeeds. They regret them, they try to improve, they pray to Krishna, they continue to endeavor, they will be successful. Their impurities will go away. And Krishna says rather quickly. Now that's a little bit of a general term. It can take longer or shorter. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says even if somebody by the time of death has still not become fully purified, still they will carry on the practice in their next life. So it's it depends on the level of contamination, depends on the intensity of service. There's all kinds of things that depend how quickly. But compared to the longer process of going up through the yoga ladder and thing, it's very quickly. So that's what Krishna sees. If somebody keeps to the process, it's so powerful that you will be cleansed. So these defects will be only temporary. Like spots on the moon, Prabhupada says. It's like that. So the practice of bhakti is so powerful that it purifies the practitioner of all negative qualities and instills all positive ones. If the practice is done sincerely, negativities and misbehaviors will not persist. So the quality of taking exclusive shelter of Krishna is so glorious. That's the moon, and the other misbehaviors may be spots. You see, that's how Krishna sees it, and that's also how we should see it. It doesn't mean that we think that the misbehaviors are great. They're fall downs. They're mistakes. They're not. But seen against the background of their bright future and their sincerity, we don't take them too seriously. And there's no need to go through a prayaschita or atonement ceremony. The bhakti itself will purify you. So. The next thing, we need to finish questions for the end because we're at 3:20, and we still got verses to go. So, and then Krishna says, "O son of Pritha," this is 32, "those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas or merchants, and shudras workers, they can attain the supreme destination." And Prabhupada says, and the word here is papa yoneha, born of sinful wombs. Really, those who have sinful reactions coming with them. So generally, Prabhupada says the association of those born in sinful families is not accepted by the higher classes. But the process of devotional service is so strong that the pure devotees of the Supreme Lord can enable people of all the lower classes to attain the highest perfection of life. Now, the acharyas say that That in the previous verse it said, people who may still have some residual contaminations and have some fall downs and practice devotional service, they will eventually be purified. Even more powerful, what about people who have a very sinful background? See, your level of birth is a result of your previous karma. So if you're born in like very, very sinful families, okay, that's because of your previous sins. And when you commit sins, two things happen. You get the physical result, born in a low family, some kind of, maybe trouble will come your way. And you get an increased inclination to perform sinful activities. Okay? So in this case, your inclinations to do bad things are really deep. They're embedded deep in your subtle body. So you generally are doing sinful things already, and the inclination is running. You did it in your past, you're doing it in your present, and the inclination is running very deep. But Krishna is saying here, even those people, simply by taking up the process of pure bhakti, they can be successful. They can be purified. So they're saying it's even more. What to speak of somebody who's a pretty high level person and just makes some mistakes, has some fall downs. They can be somebody who comes in with a huge momentum of sinful activities. That person can be purified. So generally, other dharmas, they have prerequisites. We notice that Krishna told Arjuna that one should not give up your own dharma and take up somebody else's. Because he takes that's in 335, because you take certain qualifications to take up a certain dharma. And if you try to imitate somebody else's dharma, you'll fail. But bhakti is so powerful that it not only can overcome accidental fall downs, but can purify those coming from a sinful background whose negative tendencies are deeply ingrained. So Krishna is taking it even further, and this verse is a real foundational verse for Lord Chaitanya's movement of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world.
It's 9.32.
Yeah. And so that everybody is eligible for bhakti. That pure bhakti can purify anyone. You don't have to have any, there's no prerequisites. You don't have to be a Brahmin, you don't have to be in the mode of goodness, you don't have to be all these other things. You can be the lowest person, and it's so purifying that it'll save you. So that means we can take it everywhere and to anyone. Okay, so let's look at 33. And then Krishna, this is more specifically for Arjuna. He says, how much more this is so of righteous brahmanas, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Arjuna is the saintly king. He says, therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. So this is more of a encouragement, direct encouragement to Arjuna. And Prabhupada says, Arjuna was born in a saintly royal family. To him also the Lord says, take to my devotional service and come quickly back to Godhead, back home. No one should remain in this temporary world full as it is with miseries. Everyone should attach himself to the bosom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he can be eternally happy. This is so beautiful. The devotional service of the Supreme Lord is the only process by which all problems of all classes of men can be solved. Everyone should therefore take to Krishna consciousness and make his life perfect. So beautiful. And then at the end, here's the summary. This is a summation of the whole chapter. I would say the whole Gita up to this point. Krishna says, and this verse will be nearly repeated at the end. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mam avaishyasi yuktvayavam atmana matparayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. This is what we've heard all these different things this chapter. Different types of mixtures of bhakti and this kind of stuff. We've heard about the nature of Krishna, how he's both, how there's one indifference, all these things. And it says Krishna just says, look, if you hear everything, look what happens when you engage with me directly. I help you. If you engage directly with me, no matter what your disqualifications are, they can be overcome. Whoever you are, it can work. I'll help you every step of the way. I'm inclined to you if I'm here for you. I become your active friend. Right? So what other kind of, and it says everything else that's there, every other kind of worship, it's just my energy. So this is, he says, look, taking into account everything we've heard so far, this is what you should do. Deal with me, the personal form of Krishna, the Supreme, and I'll relate, I'll work with you, I'll be with you, I'll help you. The example is given in the purport. Prabhupada also took it from the commentators about the difference between Krishna and a desire tree. There are desire trees that you can go to and get whatever you want. Kalpa vrikshas, they're called. Any kind of fruit, anything, they'll magically give you whatever you want. Yes. But the commentators say that the difference between Krishna and a desire tree is that people go to the desire tree because they want to get something from it, and the desire tree is neutral. They don't care whether you come or not. But he says, with Krishna, you can get the highest thing, devotional service, and he actively participates in your. He doesn't stay neutral like a desire tree. Now he cares for you. Yeah. So that's there. So let's look at the purport here. And Prabhupada says, one should therefore engage his mind in the eternal form, the primal form of Krishna, with conviction in his heart that Krishna is the Supreme. He should engage himself in worship. There are hundreds of thousands of temples in India for the worship of Krishna, and devotional service is practiced there. When such practice is made, one has to offer obeisances to Krishna. One should lower his head before the deity and engage his mind, his body, his activities, everything. That will make one fully absorbed in Krishna without deviation. This will help one transfer to Krishna Loka. One should not be deviated by unscrupulous commentators. He mentioned how there are people who think that, impersonalists who think that worshiping Krishna doesn't mean Krishna directly, but some kind of the unborn within Krishna. He mentions it, as Dr. Radhakrishnan says, or that somehow Krishna is representing something else. He says, no, Krishna. We've understood that very clearly. That Krishna, in his form, is the ultimate reality. So it means when Krishna, so remembering Krishna, serving Krishna, bowing down to Krishna means Krishna, nothing else. There's no other interpretation there. One must engage in the 9 different processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting about Krishna. Pure devotional service is the highest achievement of human society. That's Prabhupada's conclusion. So to me, it's pretty plain. This is the conclusion. This is the final. Considering everything in the whole chapter, this is the conclusion. This is what Krishna is saying to do, and all the rest of the chapter supports this conclusion. And even you could say the whole rest of the Gita supports this conclusion. This is the conclusion up to this point in the Gita. Taking into consideration everything we've heard, this is what Krishna is saying. Okay. So I think we have some text messages here and some other questions. Let's take a look here at the messages here. Hmm? Oh, okay. 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 Yeah, it's well, that's the one thing about Srila Prabhupada, of course, is that he it says here that Prabhupada earned respect by staying true to his principles, and he did. Of course, what Prabhupada says that he was simply following what Krishna wanted. He was saying what Krishna said. He was teaching what Krishna taught, and that's it's a faith that if Krishna is the supreme object of worship, and everything else that exists is connected with Krishna, right? That means that there's nothing else that can be as effective as worship to Krishna. And when we find out that Krishna is not just like a wish-fulfilling tree and neutral, but when we want to worship Krishna, he wants to be connected with us, and he helps us. And he'll help us materially, he'll help us spiritually. He takes responsibility for us. He's so forgiving that even if we make some innocent mistakes, he'll overlook that and still think of us as wonderful and help us to overcome those things. And the goal is something that's so wonderful that even Krishna desires it. Krishna can make any world he wants, and he can do anything he wants. He has no duties. He has nothing that he has to do. He has created the life for himself that he wants. There's no other person. Everything else is his energy and his creation. So if he wanted it differently, he could have it differently. And so Krishna, his desire to have these called Leela pastimes, that's why they're called Leela pastimes. Krishna he doesn't have any duty. He has the life he wants. He's completely free. And he has no limitations. So the fact that he has chosen to spend his life in loving relationship with devotees, I guess should tell you that that's the most it's not only the most wonderful thing there is, but it's the most wonderful thing possible. Right? Sometimes people talk about the best of all possible worlds. Well, Krishna, all worlds are possible for Krishna. So the one he has created and the one he lives in, we can have confidence it's the best of all possible worlds. And instead of just enjoying it for himself, his idea is to share the joy, to make us an integral part of his life and of the highest, this best of all possible worlds. There's nothing better than this reciprocation of love. So, Prabhupada was really clear about that. There is no second thing that has any value. And that it does everything for you. Nothing else is needed. It's necessary and sufficient. And he was really, really firm on that, because that's just what it is.
Devotional service is necessary.
It is. I mean, otherwise, otherwise you're gonna. What are you going to get if you don't surrender to Krishna? Continued birth and death. Even if there's impersonal liberation, you fall back down again. You're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy, and you can't participate in the by far the best thing. You're missing out. You're missing out. So we need to do it. We need to do it to come to our real nature, to have any kind of real life. Everything else is gonna fall short of our expectations, and it's sufficient. You don't need anything else. Krishna supplies it. So yeah, Prabhupada was really, he emphasized over and over again. He said he didn't want to compromise, because why? It's the reality. And if he compromises it or waters it down, then you can't get the real benefit from it. So he wouldn't do that. Okay. So you have questions?
Yes, Prabhu. Just now, one question popped out is you just mentioned Krishna doesn't have any duties.
Yeah.
And if I think myself, I feel like we all want that. We don't want anybody wants in a life full of duties. We just wanted to live the way we want.
We want freedom, right? Everybody wants freedom. Yeah.
So, is the life in spiritual world, there will be duties?
No, there's no duties. Actually, see, Krishna is the supreme controller. So he has the ability to control anything that he wants. Okay? But just being in control of things and making things happen the way you want is two things. We want to do that here in this world because we're in a hostile environment. The more you have the less you have control in this world over circumstances and over your situation, the more you are likely to be abused and injured. Isn't it?
Yeah, if you have less control.
Less control. We feel we're more vulnerable, more things can happen to us because we're living in a hostile environment.
Yes.
Okay? So we all think that more control,
More happiness.
more facilities, more power and influence will be a benefit to us.
Yes.
And our experience tends to confirm that, you know. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
Okay? But if we say we can completely control our friends and our family and say our, you know, spouses, and they do only what we want them to do. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, that also may be fun to us for some time.
Yes.
Oh, they do this, do that. So, but it becomes boring. Because if you're controlling them, then there's no real love there.
Yeah, it's like machines working.
That's right. You might as well have a robot.
Yeah.
Right? So say if you could create a lifelike robot.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, of course, for a while it may be very nice because you know, people tend to be kind of disagreeable at times. They tend to do things you don't want, and that is irritating. So what if everybody did just what you wanted them to do?
It's new, so...
It would, at least for a while, that would just seem like, God, finally.
Yes.
But if you realize that it's just done by your control, that they're not real entities there, they're not real people, there's no real concern, they're just programmed or they're brainwashed or whatever, then it suddenly would lose some of its attraction. Yeah, charm and attraction.
Yeah, because if you know that you are just
Yeah.
mechanically smiling,
Yeah.
then I don't feel happy.
Yeah. It's not because, you know, when somebody does something for you out of their free will,
Yeah.
then they think that they genuinely have affection for you. That matters to you.
Yes.
That's why people who are rich and famous and powerful, they oftentimes feel very alone. They oftentimes have, you know, they have a posse of peeps, you know, and yes
So that
men,
they will smile for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yes men, and they'll glorify them and they'll agree with them and they'll say you're great, you're wonderful, and they feel completely alone because they know it's
Fake.
all fake. Yeah, it's all nonsense. They feel that they don't have genuine relationships because people are just trying to take advantage of them, or trying to be famous by association and things like that. So that's not the highest thing. It seems good in comparison to a hostile environment that we have, and in a place where things are out of control. But for Krishna, he has a safe environment. The spiritual realm is a safe environment where there's only love. He loves them, they love him. And so therefore, freedom is at a premium. He doesn't have to control. Yeah, it's at a maximum. Because then the activities are genuine,
Yes.
and they're also safe because there's real love there. So he doesn't have to protect himself. He doesn't need to have control because people are going to take advantage of him or abuse him. Or they all have genuine love for him, and he has love for them. So where there's complete love, then freedom is something that simply enhances it. You see, it makes the quality higher, and there's no danger involved.
Okay.
Yeah? So in the spiritual world, there's freedom.
Yes.
The controlling factor, what controls the devotees, is their love for Krishna and desire to see him happy. It means everything to them. And what controls Krishna is his love for his devotees and his desire for them to be happy.
So it is not a duty anymore for the devotee. Even though he do the same duty regularly, still it is not a duty for him.
No, it's every moment, any chance to do something for Krishna, because the relationship is always deepening. So there's a routine even in the spiritual world. Some people do a certain service, like every day,
Yes.
right? But every day, it's like it's being done for the first time. Because each day their love for Krishna is growing.
Yeah.
And the love part is, so the routine may be the same, the service may be the same, but the relationship has deepened. The feelings have deepened. And so now when it's time to do that same service, it doesn't feel like the same service. It's somehow now, oh, thank God you have a chance to do something to express your gratitude, to show your love.
Sure.
And so that's why it says ever fresh in the spiritual world. Things are ever fresh.
Yeah.
Because the love is always growing, it's dynamic.
Okay.
Hmm?
So, yeah, it is not a duty anymore.
There's duty, even in before the bhakti is fully developed,
Yeah.
it becomes, at first it's you understand the importance of devotional service. You have some appreciation for Krishna. You understand the value of it, and so therefore you take it up. And so therefore, and you do it, following the instructions of the scriptures and the previous devotees. And so in some sense, it's a activity of your intelligence, and you make a certain commitment. The activities at every moment may not be joyful, but you understand the value of it. So it's kind of a duty in that sense. But as the relationship begins to develop, then you find yourself, as you're doing that duty, that you are eager to do it more nicely. Prabhupada says that's the beginning of spontaneous devotional service. When now I'm not just going to do it, but I'm excited to do it and I want to do it nicely.
Yes.
See, then it's more than a duty.
Yes.
That's the beginning of it becoming less of a duty and more of a free thing.
Right.
And that continues to grow to the point where all devotional activities are just joyful and feel wonderful. Then you come to the point where you're addicted to them.
Yes.
And then you can, from that point, then you reach into transcendence.
Yes.
So it's even within the practice of devotional service, the notion of duty begins to fade more and more to the background as we progress. So in the spiritual world, it's opportunity. Every service is opportunity,
Yes.
a precious opportunity, an incredible opportunity, not a duty.
Yeah.
That concept is way out the window.
Yeah.
That no one even would understand the concept there.
Yes.
If you told them the concept, they wouldn't
I
understand it.
don't think they will be preaching there, but
Yeah.
only glorification.
Yeah, but if you tried to explain it to them, it wouldn't compute.
Yes.
Duty? The duty to serve Krishna?
Yeah.
What? They would think you were mad.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't understand you.
I got your point. Sometimes even here, we try to share with our friends. We don't feel, oh, I should share like that. You feel like sharing.
Right, exactly. So yeah, even with normal relationships, we have something of that.
Yeah.
Right? So what to speak of with Krishna? Yeah, there's just no way. So yeah, the duty is something that happens now. But it's not something that's going to that persists and is a feature of advanced devotional service, or what to speak of the spiritual world.
And actually, one point that I think it struck me is your example, the difference between the Kalpavruksha and the Krishna.
Yeah.
So this was very striking.
Yeah, because then this is the tree stands there and it gives you whatever you want.
Whoever comes, it will give
It was everybody, and you take it, don't take it, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And but yeah, with Krishna, you don't approach for what he's going to give, and he responds to you. He cares for you. You get Krishna, not the fruit of the tree.
The other side
And
is the person.
yeah.
Reciprocation is there.
Yeah. So Krishna, he reacts to us the way we want him to. Yeah. Says the way we treat him, and he responds accordingly. So in that sense, it's kind of like a wish-fulfilling tree, but the difference part is that he's giving himself.
It's like giving a fruit and giving it with smile.
Yeah. So it's more than that. And so that's the thing. There's the other types of worship and other types of dharma can produce all kind of other effects. You can live on, there are different realms of the universe where people live a long time, where it's much happier than it is here. You can enter into the it can exit the material world into the spiritual effulgence and stay there a very, very long time. You can be rich, you can be famous, you can have. There's plants of the yogis where they can travel all over the universe, just through mystic power. They can get anything from anywhere. The mystic cities are very, very, really powerful. If there's something anywhere in the universe, you can just grab it. Prapti city, you can attain it. You can travel to the sun on a sunbeam, on the sun rays. One of the rays become lagu. The lagu, lighter than the lightest.
Carry it like a rope.
Yeah, so many things. There's so many things that are there. Those things are all available, but there's nothing like, and this is Krishna, the omniscient, all powerful. So that's why I say the best of all possible worlds, because there's nothing he can't do, and there's nothing he can't conceive of. All right? So there's no limitation for him, and he has decided that selfless, just genuine love, that genuine love is the best thing that there is. And he's spending his eternal life doing it. Krishna. That's how he's. That's you say lila means. Prabhupada translates as pastimes. That's how he's living his life. He can do anything. He can have any world he wants, and he can want anything. He's intelligent enough to conceive of anything. Right? There's stories of what is it? There's a story that somebody was kind of a little fable that someone whose job was pulling the barges on a canal. Barges. Sometimes they used to do transport. They'd have these small canals, like we have near here in Potomac. We had to get around the rapids there in the Potomac River. They had these series of locks and canals. So they would. That's how before they had railroads, they would transport things by water, and certain places where there wasn't a river or where the river was too rough, they would have a canal, and they would have horses or this kind of stuff. But also, some places people would pull the barges. It's just a small little, something that floats on the water, carries some cargo. And you have ropes, and you pull the barge. No row. You stand on the shore because it's just a canal is just a small little thing, just as wide as the barge, and you stand on the pathway and you pull it. Yeah? And so you have horses, or sometimes you have people. So anyway, there's a little fable where there was this guy, a little illustrated for who was pulling the barge.
Barge means
like a little raft, something that floats on the water that carries cargo, like a small boat, like a small boat. And so that's what you use to transport goods with, And so there's people walking alongside it. There's just a small little canal of water that's just about this little bit bigger than the boat.
They just kind of drag it.
And they drag it, they pull it along. And so so one of these guys who's pulling the barge, he was given a benediction to get anything he wanted. And he says, I have to pull this heavy barge and I don't have any shoes. If I could just have some shoes, then it would make my life so much easier. Okay? So there's a certain lack of imagination in that person's request if he can have anything in the world.
Yes.
Like why not, not have to pull a barge any longer, for example. Okay? So he had the ability to get anything he wanted. So in that sense he had complete power.
Yeah.
But he didn't have much imagination.
Yes.
Okay? So Krishna has both things. He has unlimited power and his intelligence is unlimited, so he has unlimited imagination. Yes. Okay? So therefore when he creates something, it's the best of all possible worlds because he can conceive of everything. This guy had very little imagination. He didn't say, make me a rich guy and get me out of here.
Right.
Give me some shoes, dude. My feet really are sore. So Krishna has both of those things in infinite supply. So what he's decided to do, we have to respect and think that must be something really awesome. And what he's doing is he's experiencing this genuine love. And he's inviting us, and he's created us to be able to participate in that. And he's inviting us to participate in that. To be part of the best of all possible worlds. And it's just up to us to decide if we want to do that or not. And as soon as we declare that intention, it gets Krishna's attention. And even if we're, kind of shady characters still,
Yes.
Krishna sees our potential, and he sees that one good quality that we want to do that, and he overlooks everything else. It says there's 26. There's listed 26 characteristics of devotees, but there's one important one, and singular one. The other ones are secondary, and that first one is that you really want to surrender to Krishna. You want to serve him, and all the other ones are things that derive from that. They will arise through the practice of bhakti. And so so why wouldn't we do it? I mean, why wouldn't we do it? We can't imagine the best of all possible worlds.
Yes.
We don't have the power to get whatever we want.
Yes.
And if we did have the power to get whatever we want, we would be more like the guy who wants shoes
Yes. Yes.
than we would Krishna. We wouldn't be able to understand the selfless love. We would want something for ourselves, to to make the feet feel a little bit better, but not actually get to the roots of the problem. So Krishna's offering us to be a part of the best of all possible worlds, and to be part of something that the entity who can do anything and have everything, anything, and can imagine anything, that's what he's chosen. And we can be a really...
That's what he chosen, or we chose him, such a person?
No, I'm saying that he's a person that can do anything,
Yeah, he can do
and have anything, and he can imagine anything.
Yes.
And so the world he set up in his spiritual world, that's the fruit of having unlimited power and unlimited imagination. And that's how he's spending his life. He doesn't get bored with it after 1 billion years or 2 billion years.
Yeah. And maybe he can change it also the way he wants. Every time atmosphere.
We don't have any record or any understanding that that's ever changed. That he's found what it is,
Oh, okay.
and it's just getting better for him because the relationships are deepening.
Yes.
So we don't have any knowledge or evidence that he becomes different,
Okay.
or that anything changes.
Okay.
Just that what he has created is so wonderful
Yeah.
that there's nothing else that can compare with it.
Yeah.
Nothing else that could compare with it. Otherwise, he'd already done it.
Yes.
And that it keeps getting better and better and better.
Due to relationships.
Yeah, the relationships, the love is deepening. Because when you have real love,
Yeah.
that there isn't a selfish motive, then as far as I understand, the whole atmosphere of love expands. Right now, if we're needy people, we can absorb love from so many people, and it just disappears. It feels good for a moment, and it doesn't permanently solve our neediness.
Yes.
We get used to it.
Yeah.
It's like we have a black hole that swallows all the happiness and all the love. So imagine if you could have 1% right now of all the happiness you had, or feel the happiness from all the times you were loved, even 1% right now.
I did not get you. Sorry.
We've had moments of happiness in our lives, right?
Yes.
Many different ones.
Yes.
So what if you could take even just a 1% of all of it combined,
Yeah.
and feel it right now?
Not much is coming.
Huh? No, so take all the times that you've been happy,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And you take 1% of each one of those times,
Right.
and you combine it all together and be that happy. Can you understand?
Yeah.
Would you be happy now? If you could have 1% of all the happiness you've ever had all at once?
Should be happy.
Shouldn't you be really happy?
At this moment, actually, I could not collect all the ones.
No, but I'm not saying you if you could.
Yeah.
I'm not making this a thought experiment. Not that you do it now, but I'm saying think of it.
Yeah.
Think of all the happiness that you've had.
Yeah.
If you put it all together,
Yes.
and you could have it all at once. That would be huge. But if you could, even if you could take 1% of it,
that will be still huge.
yeah. But you don't feel any happiness now, hardly like that, right?
Yes. No.
Where does it go? That's my point. See,
Yeah.
you had so much more than it'd be more happiness than you could even hardly understand.
Right.
Even if you had 1%, and same thing, if you had people who loved you, who showed you love,
Yeah.
if you could keep 1% of that all together, the whole,
Right.
you would feel like, wow, feel like you feel very loved.
Yes.
Do you feel loved right now?
No.
You don't feel. Do you feel so happy right now? No. Where did it go? Where did it go? Why doesn't it remain? Because it gets sucked into the false ego. We have a black hole. It's like a black hole,
Okay.
and it never gets filled.
Yes.
In the spiritual world, everybody is naturally self-satisfied.
Yes.
They don't have a hole.
Yeah.
So when they feel love,
Yeah.
it doesn't just go down and disappear.
Yeah.
They feel that love and they reflect it back.
Yes.
And the other people feel it and they reflect it.
Yeah.
You see?
It keeps on increasing.
Yeah, it keeps on increasing. It just grows.
Yeah.
Here, no matter how much it is, we're filled with all these black holes that suck everything up.
Yeah. Everybody is
There's
having
been-
a black hole. And,
Yeah, there's been so much love in the world, but nobody feels anything. They always feel like they have to do it again.
Yes.
They need more.
True.
Yeah?
Yes.
But in the spiritual world, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Right? So somebody loves us and we feel that for a moment, and we feel happy and we feel love back. And then, gone.
Yes.
That love is gone and your love is gone.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay? So what if there's not a black hole? It reflects.
Yes.
Okay? In the spiritual world, no black holes. No black holes. And so it's just becoming more beautiful all the time. The love is inspiring everyone to love more. They feel loved and they love more. And they love more and people feel loved. And they feel loved and feel loved more. And they love it. It's back and forth. It just keeps shining.
Yes.
Yeah? So that's how it works. We're invited.
We are not going.
Well, yes, so far we haven't
Yeah.
accepted the invitation
At least.
with as much enthusiasm as we ought to.
Yeah. But we recognize the invitation.
But we're hopefully beginning to realize it and hoping to start to take up the invitation.